You can be funny.
No, I can't.
Yeah.
I cannot.
Adam, just be as funny as this current election season is turning out to be.
It is not funny.
Oh.
It is a cruel joke to those of us who actually give a shit about things.
It'll be funnier if it has the beep.
It actually will be funny with the beep.
Put the big poop emoji on the screen right there. Just
Yeah.
boom.
I haven't figured out how to add emojis. I mean, I could figure it out pretty damn fast.
Look at I can figure it out pretty damn fast.
I'm pretty good at
That's
editing.
self-confidence right
That
there.
is self-confidence.
That's not a guy singing that she's so high above him for no reason. Just,
I'd been doing video editing for a
he's
long,
like, I
long
could get
time.
her pretty damn fast.
Since we were like in high school or whatever, right?
High in high school?
We just don't have the really good programs.
We don't, but you know who's doing really good? The Jets.
The Jets sure are.
The Jets are doing good. They're winning again.
Yeah.
I went to a game last week.
50 games.
51.
Yeah.
Last week.
First Canadian game to 50, or first Canadian team to 50 games, I think, right? Is that what I was reading today?
Yeah.
You mean wins? Not
50
games.
wins. 50 wins. Yeah, that's what I meant.
I went to see them play Washington last week.
That was a good one.
It was a very good game.
Yeah.
Gretzky was there?
Unknown. I don't think so, because they probably didn't think he was going to score like 6 or 7 goals. He only scored 1.
Yeah. But Gretzky's going to be there. Why?
Why is Gretzky going to be there? Because Gretzky likes to watch the Jets play. No,
That's right.
that is not the reason.
Everybody loves the Jets, including the great one.
Gretzky is following Ovechkin around.
Because Gretzky has the all-time scorer's goal, right?
And today he scored 891.
Mhm.
Goals record, yeah.
4 left to go now.
That's right. Who's that, though?
Ovechkin has 4 left to go.
Alexander
On the Capitals there,
Ovechkin.
Yeah.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
How long has that guy been playing?
Oh, Lord.
I mean, he was a rookie with Sidney Crosby, so a lot of years ago.
Yeah.
There was a lot of Ovechkin jerseys in that arena.
There was. I saw
Why
it on
not?
TV.
Yeah, he's got a lot of fans here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of immigrants that recently came by and I like him, so that's also true.
Why they got to be immigrants?
Well,
Well, they came from the same region.
He's always got to go there.
They came from the same region where he's from, so they like him because he's a hometown kind of guy.
Well, I like him too.
Yeah, well, he's a good guy. I mean, he's a good hockey player, at least. I don't know him as a guy, but he's a good hockey player. I like watching the Capitals for
Well,
sure.
you haven't met him?
That was probably a good game. Hey?
I thought
I didn't actually watch that game. I was out and about.
Yeah.
You watched it while you were out and about?
No, I didn't watch that one. It was a good game?
Yeah. It went in overtime, I believe.
Yeah,
Was it?
Overtime win
Yeah.
for the Jets.
We've won 3 straight after beating the Canucks this past weekend. And tonight we are playing again. I believe we play the LA Kings at like 9:30.
Gretzky's old team.
One of them.
Yeah.
One of them.
When I was a kid, started watching hockey. He was playing for the Kings. I
Yeah.
didn't learn till later that he was a big Edmonton thing, so I always thought he was.
We were
LA
like
player.
just like not. We were like being born when he was playing in Edmonton. So how would we have known?
Then he had all his back issues.
Mm-hmm.
And his career was over, and he had a good long career though.
Yeah, he did.
When did he play for the Rangers?
Sometime before he retired.
Shortly.
Pretty close to the end of his career, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Who do you retire with, though? Like, is this... I know 99's retired from the league entirely, but, like...
That's a good question.
I wonder who he actually retired with.
Like a ceremonial thing where he went back to Edmonton for something.
Well, some
I
people
actually
sign,
don't know.
like, one-day contracts,
I don't
right?
know.
So,
Yeah.
Maybe he just didn't do that because the whole league retired him.
This
The
is,
guy retired as an NHL
yeah,
player guy.
that's true, too, because, yeah, no one can use his number.
I don't know. If you know the answer to that question, if there is one, post it down below.
Mm-hmm. I'd be curious to know that one.
Let us know. Inform the Michael Lee. He wants to be
Please.
informed.
I don't know.
Then he'll inform the rest of us and we'll all know.
Yep.
That's how that goes. So, you know what was less awesome?
Something annoying in the world of politics.
Politics.
Most of what is happening with the Canadian election I find annoying. But I would like to talk about one particular Liberal candidate who made some comments about his Conservative opponent and how he should be, I believe...
Oh, we're not talking about the Prime Minister this time.
We're not talking about the Prime Minister yet. It's just what's his name? Mark? No. Paul Chang.
Paul Chang,
Sitting
MP.
Sitting MP, and up until earlier today was still running to be reelected there.
Yeah, the media was asking the prime minister about him yesterday.
Well, what did Paul Chang do? He made some comments about his conservative opponent there, who I guess has bounties
From
on
China.
him in Hong Kong.
Ah,
And from what I read, it's for speaking out for democracy and whatnot. I didn't dig too deep into that, but that's
What do you mean?
I saw.
you're saying China doesn't have a democracy and allow democracy?
I'm not going to say too much about China, but let's just say that maybe what this guy said,
They'll put a hit on him too.
that his opponent should be delivered to the what is it? The consulate? Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
So he can be brought to China and face, probably, getting disappeared or whatnot.
Yeah, that is a crime here in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little bit crazy to think that that wasn't allowed by a politician. And I do think that the RCMP is actually investigating this scenario. And yet, when the media asked about Paul Chang to the current Prime Minister, Mark Carney, what did Mark Carney say?
I believe he said something effective. I stand behind him.
Yes, he said this is a learning experience, actually.
Ah, yes.
So apparently the Prime Minister basically just didn't acknowledge that it was a crime, what he did, and probably should be reprimanded or at least put aside from politics or suspended like the rest of us would get in our jobs if we did some type of criminal endeavor.
So I guess, it's fair. Unless somebody tells you, you probably don't know that you shouldn't say someone should be kidnapped, deported, and killed.
Yeah.
Someone, you need it. It's a learning experience. You got to learn that so that you know it, because it would be impossible to just figure that out on your own.
Why would Mark Carney be so lenient towards the Chinese government?
It's a good question, and there have been connections between the Chinese government and the Liberals before.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much has been, if anything has ever been proven, but there's been, whisperings that there's a little too much friendliness there. So,
there's a lack of investigations from the RCMP as to why our previous prime minister was associating with some criminals in China, like actual fentanyl dealers. Why didn't they investigate that? I have no idea. Like,
a lot of things weren't investigated with our previous prime minister.
yeah.
Or they were investigated, and then he was told he shouldn't have done that, and he's like, cool, I don't care, and then he goes and does it again.
Yeah. Prorogue Parliament when we're trying to find out information, too. That's what happens.
Yeah, well, anyways, luckily, we're in the process of having an election, and it looks like, people are going to be intelligent and think for themselves, and
For the most part.
and totally not just elect the same group of idiots with a different leader to do the same crap again, right?
No.
Oh.
If we have learned anything, at the very least, the MP in question, Paul Chang, has resigned today, so that makes sense. The guy was getting actual flack from the media for a change, so...
I noticed the left-wing media actually picked up on this one.
They might have been forced to, because in previous situations, the alternative media on YouTube and whatnot tends to find out a story and present it, and the media is forced to follow along, because, like the mainstream media, because everyone hears it on Instagram and YouTube anyway, so you can't just ignore things anymore. You got to address them. And you know what? To the point we were just making, what is the polling showing today, Adam? 8 points ahead for the Liberals.
The poll is very upsetting. Before we move on to that,
Oh, you want to talk about Paul?
in relation to that, I want to be fair.
Okay.
I want to be fair. I don't, we gotta tell all sides here. I saw another story today about a conservative candidate named, I believe, Mark McKenzie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he also made some comments. I believe they were not particularly recent, but they were recorded, and they were pretty bad. I think he suggested our previous prime minister should be hung or something like that. But anyways, as that story was coming out, it was also basically told that he was resigning from the campaign or whatever. So he basically there was no messing around on their side. They're like, no, you're done. You're not running anymore. Can't be saying that. No learning experience for him. So just wanted to make that, if we don't bring that up, someone's going to bring it up in the comments and be like, you guys are only telling one side of the story. Well, there we go. Gaffes all around.
Yeah, I agree, Adam. I think, well, you know what? I want to talk about that 8-point lead because that's the number one thing. Conservatives have lost their major lead as of when was it? The end of December or whatever, and now the Liberals are going ahead.
Where did it go?
Where did that lead go?
I don't know. It's gone.
We will I guess we will guess, right? But I would just like to say maybe it's a good thing that we are seeing this right now.
Yeah, look at those numbers there. Michael Lee just put them up on the screen. That is, I have to say, disheartening to see that.
Is the Conservative number changed, first of all?
It's up a little bit.
It's not dropped significantly. As we discussed previously, the left may be consolidating under the Liberal banner now.
They are, but they've essentially been taking votes away from the NDP and the Green Party and the Bloc. They're consolidating behind the Liberals. Because I mean, if you go back and look at support traditionally for different parties in previous elections, the Conservative number there is pretty good. They're 37%. That's a pretty solid percentage for them. But the problem is the way the vote efficiencies work, and their votes very concentrated in Western Canada, they have to get significantly more votes than the Liberals do in order to form government, and especially to form a majority. So unfortunately, even though their support is pretty solid, that huge lead for the Liberals there is shocking and concerning for me. How do you feel about that, Josh?
Well, I don't necessarily always put a lot of faith in polling because it's like they talk about Saskatchewan in this province being the hardest place to poll. You got working class people, farmers in the middle of their crops or wherever they happen to be.
They don't have time to pick up a phone.
Actually working. You're going to take a 15-minute call. How many hardworking Canadians are taking a 15-minute call to answer a bunch of questions from some polling thing? You don't get anything for it. Like it's probably people that are adapt, like already like preconceived notions towards liberalism that they're going to take those calls. Like that could be. It could be poor sampling. I don't really know. And that's why I don't put a lot of faith in these polls, because we just really don't know. The good thing I would say about this is if you like these numbers and you're a liberal, well, then maybe you're going to sit back and say we're winning. That's how some people would think. On the other hand, what we know about the conservative movement at this point, they are more fired up. They are more
well, these numbers are just going to fire them up.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And they'll be more influenced now to go out and make more effort. They're more likely to actually go to the vote. If you're seeing these numbers in a Liberal, you're like 44, 45%, we're leading. I don't really have to go out and vote, do I? That might be what happens.
There could be some complacency, yeah.
Yeah, and then you're going to see people on the losing side. It's the same as in sports, you guys. What happens when you go into the playoffs, right? And your team is losing. You're making more of an effort to play, right? You're trying to find your game plan and get your footing and get going, right? So now that the Conservatives are behind, maybe that's what we're going to see. Make a sports reference there, Conservatives are going to get out, get their footing, their game plan, whatever it is, and maybe they're going to encourage more people to knock on doors and have conversations and talk about some of the actual reasons why we should be voting for any of these parties, you guys. And that's what I would like to actually discuss, because you know what? Whatever happens, happens. But why should I vote for any of the three big parties here, Adam? Has there been any promises recently that maybe of content we could talk about? Because the only thing this election is becoming is who is going to defend us against Donald Trump? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Like all the parties aren't going to do the exact same thing after the 28th.
I'm glad you brought that up because, people need to maybe take a moment and think about this whole thing with Trump and tariffs and all that. That's, he's going to be maybe cause us some difficulty throughout his term, but that is the majority of that is going to probably wrap itself up in the first few months of this term. And then we have another 4 years of what the heck is this government going to do? If we put these liberals back in here with the same cabinet ministers and the same clowns running the show and pretending like the real world doesn't exist, we can expect the same crap we've just been having for the last 10 years that not long ago had people really fired up for the conservatives. They had the liberal numbers in the floor, like some of the worst we've seen. The issues that led to that, we are going to be dealing with them again if we pick the same people and put them back in the same job. And it doesn't matter that Mark Carney is now replaced Justin Trudeau. It is the same party. It is the same people with the same bad ideas.
Yeah. To bring back a sports reference, do you think if a sport team changes one player, it's completely a different team?
Well, if they pick a new coach, is it a new team?
It's a completely new team.
Yeah, that's how it is. They'll just win every game.
No, it's not like you said. But you know what? To substantiate why I should vote for any of these, is there any announcements? Because it's what I love. Promise season by the politicians. I love political promises. They give them all the time, especially here in Transcona, decades-long promises that never accomplished.
Well, there's a good one coming for you.
What's that?
I think it was announced yesterday, either yesterday or the day before. The Liberals have announced their housing policy. And as you would imagine,
I love it.
They have just promised billions more dollars that will magic itself out of nowhere. And they're going to pour it into all these magic funds, including the Housing Accelerator Fund, which has already proven to be very ineffective. And they're going to double down on that and put more money into that. And they're going to, Carney said he's going to build, 500,000 homes a year? I don't think Canada's ever built more than 300,000 ever in a year, but he's going to snap his fingers and we're going to build 500,000 a year just because he said so. Even though for the past 10 years, these Liberals haven't been able to get anything built and they've been ignoring the problem. They create funds with billions of dollars that they don't have. And then they claim that they built one house somewhere and they go and have a photo op. It's ridiculous.
No, the numbers have never gone over like the 250, 2-something mark.
It might be 270, I think, is the highest it's ever been.
And it's been constant for years and years and years. The governments cannot build more houses. Governments cannot build houses. Like, even if you had all of the members, the soon-to-be 343 members of parliament that will be in parliament go out there and build houses for the entire term of their whatever duration they'll be in the next session. Nobody's building more than these houses. The governments cannot do it. The thing that they need is skilled laborers first of all, and they're just becoming fewer of those because they're going elsewhere and they're not being educated. And secondly, there's so many regulations to build houses that it's just not worth anybody's time. We can just not, there has to be a better system, because just trying to build more houses with regulations and a lack of skilled labor is not going to happen. It's going to get worse, and there's multiple factors here that the government just does not know how to address, and that's all there is to this housing thing. This is a promise. It's as empty as the 2021 promise that the Liberals made before. Nothing, mark my words, nothing will come of this promise.
It's just promising more big, like, sensational numbers. Like, they don't even promise something believable, right? Like be like, hey, we've hit 270 before, so maybe now we'll try to, we'll have this strategy and this strategy, and we'll try to push it up closer to 300,000 a year or something like that. But to be like, oh yeah, we're just going to do 500,000 now. We're going to magic up $10 billion here and throw it there, and we'll put it in this fund or whatever. A couple billion here, and we'll just solve this thing they haven't been able to solve for 10 years. That's all it takes. They just magic up some money and say it's in a fund, right? And then they snap their fingers and they say, here's the number of houses we're going to build. 500,000 a year. Boom, done.
Yeah, it's It's political promises, Adam, and I'm sick of it, and that's all you're going to get on this front. But is there anything else, Adam, of substantiation that we should get to consider? Because, like...
Well, I mean, if you want to know what else the Liberals are going to promise...
Or the other guys,
Well,
the NDP or whatever.
I'm getting to a point.
Okay.
If you want to know what else the Liberals are going to promise, just look at what the Conservatives promised yesterday.
Yeah.
And then the next day, the Liberals will come out and promise the same damn thing in a few different words and move some numbers around, carry the one, whatever, same thing.
And that's exactly what happened when it come to these tax cuts that were promised.
Yeah.
The Conservatives, what was the number that they were going to drop the first tax bracket down to?
Well, okay, so in fairness on that one, the Liberals were first.
Yes.
Because they announced theirs while they were announcing the election. So nobody could really beat them to that. So they said they were going to drop the lowest tax brackets, the one basically
Federal one, yeah.
applies to everyone, at least partly, right? They're going to drop it by 1%.
Yep.
And they were going to save the average, this is the average Canadian. So that's what we're always talking about. A good $400 a year, right?
Yep.
If you made it at least enough money to get to the top of that tax bracket,
so that was like
save $400 a year.
15% or something.
Just less than 15%. It's wording is something I want to talk about. Pierre, the Conservatives, said they're going to drop that same bracket by, I believe, 2.25%?
2 or 2.5? Yeah, something.
Okay, something like that. So it would be more. I think the here we are. The average Canadian, again, they're going to save $800 or $900 a year.
Yeah.
Which it's money. I guess that's good.
I like it.
And they called it a 15% tax cut. So they worded it a little differently. So there's some political speak at play here. But either way, they're both talking about cutting the same tax bracket, and the Conservatives are going to cut it about twice as much as the Liberals said they would. That's what it is there. So Liberal plan, get everyone about $400. Conservative plan, get everyone $800 or $900. That's what that is. So, I mean, that in and of itself is not a solution to anything, but it is a piece of a solution. So it's a good place to start.
It's always, I wish it would be more.
It should be more.
I've heard from the NDP suggestions, but you know what? At least it would be a start, because I would at least get something from all the promises if they were to accomplish a lower tax rate on all of us. I would like it. I would be more incentivized on that point alone to vote Conservative, just because I'm gonna get almost $1,000 back, I guess.
That's a few trips to Costco. That's a few grocery shops for sure.
Yeah,
that's not nothing.
Yeah. What else is promised in the promising season, Adam? Do we have
in the promising season? Yes,
yeah.
The season of promises and government gift giving.
That is what it is. I don't even know if there's gift giving.
There's no gift giving. That was an embellishment. I'll take my 2 minutes in the box. So there was a TFSA promise from the Conservatives. I like this one. I don't know if this one's going to hit home with as many people. But basically, if you have a TFSA, you can put some $7,000 in it every year, and then let it grow, and you'll never have to pay taxes on that money. It's great. Mm-hmm. With the Conservative promise,
tell you take it as income.
No, you can take it as income, and you don't have to pay taxes on it in a TFSA.
On TFSA?
Ever. The money you put in has already been taxed.
Yeah.
So then you put it in there, and it grows, and you don't ever pay tax on that, even when you take it out.
That's why my Quest trade is a TFSA.
You have already been taxed, sir. However, should we elect a new Conservative government, they are going to add an additional cap if you invest specifically in Canadian companies. You can put in an additional
$5,000.
$5,000, yes.
And it may not say much to the hardworking Canadians that don't have a lot of money in their bank account.
That's the criticism against
that is the problem. Yeah. I understand that. For the everyday average working people, the people who don't have the money, I understand that criticism.
I mean, we're talking about $12,000 a year, right? You're like, I just don't know what to do with this.
Randomly have $12,000. A lot of Canadians don't.
Not a common problem.
The thing, I look a little bit further into the future, and I see this is a good thing in the sense that you know what it does? It invests directly into the Canadian economy. This is what we need. Encouragement for Canadians that do have money to say, let's put money into Canadian stuff. Everybody's talking about this protect America or protect Canada from the Americans, right? And the big bad Donald Trump. This is one small thing that would do that, because it would give money to Canadian businesses from local investors on the smallest level. That's what I say.
Because this kind of thing is the answer to another question that the media likes to throw oddly at the Conservatives and not at the Liberals, even though they're both talking about cutting the taxes. No, there's no bias. But I see Polyev is often facing the question, well, if you're going to cut that tax bracket, it's going to cost the government some $10 billion or something like that. How are you going to pay for that? That's like the question. $4 billion. Well, whatever it is.
Plan. Yeah.
He gets asked that question. I haven't really seen Mark Carney ask that question about his 1% cut, but whatever. Beside the point, the answer to that question is things like what Josh just said with this TFSA that encourages investment in Canada, in Canadian businesses. If Canada has growth and businesses in Canada grow, they will create more tax money and other revenue for the government. And that's how the government can replace money that they don't get taxing us. Mm-hmm. This is how it works, people. If the country is doing well and it has a good GDP and businesses are thriving, then the government can make money off of that and they don't have to tax us into the ground.
Yeah. So the country's not doing so well, I guess, since we are being taxed into the ground. That's what
That's
get
why
from that.
It's a multi-pronged attack. Number one, let people have their money. Great. Let them keep the money they earned. That is a good idea. We need more of that kind of thinking. They
will spend that money eventually.
Yes, they'll spend it into the economy and it will end up back in the government's pockets anyway. So it's fine. Yeah. We don't need to panic about a tax cut. I've seen
the government doesn't know how to spend it to improve infrastructure or the economy.
Well, I'm glad you brought up infrastructure, because another promise we've seen, again, from both teams.
Promises.
One of them has been talking about this for over a year. The Conservatives. The other one just magically suddenly wants to do this now, even though they've spent the last 10 years hating everything about it. I'm talking about building an energy corridor.
Bill C-69, as you had talked about, the no energy infrastructure, no new pipelines
bill. No new pipelines, right.
That's what the Liberals have done to us. And now you're saying the Liberals are promising something completely against the legislation that they've previously passed.
Well, because the Conservatives said they're going to do it. And they've been saying they're going to do it for, like I said, over a year. They've been talking about doing this. And now, unsurprisingly, as we've seen with the Liberal campaign, they suddenly are going to do the same thing, even though it flies in the face of what Mark Carney has been leading us to believe that he believes in for years. It flies in the face of legislation we've been watching the Liberals pass for the last 10 years. And suddenly now the Liberals are going to do it because, oh, what do you know? It's a popular thing. They're going to say they're going to do it, then get elected and definitely not do it, because they have proven to us over and over again that is not their thing.
I mean, I think it's what Canada needs. We need to develop resources. The two major political parties are saying that now, right? Mm-hmm. And it's what the Conservatives have been saying for a long time. So despite the fact that maybe people trust the Liberals now have changed their mind, and they'll do it despite evidence to the contrary for the last decade. I think
lost Liberal decade.
Either way, it needs to happen, because we need to develop a stronger economy. We have the weakest economy in like the G7 or something like that, despite the fact that some statistics might try to persuade you otherwise.
Yeah, don't worry about Chrysler Freeland and our nonsense.
The GDP growth in Canada is terrible, and you know what?
And projected to stay terrible for the next 30 years.
Yeah. The reality here is the Americans are going to develop, because they are pulling regulation aside, and they are going to get their drill baby drill going, right?
They're cutting taxes.
And they're cutting taxes, yeah. And Canada will continue to have carbon taxes, have higher business taxes, and I think it's just going to encourage people to move south.
False, Josh. The carbon tax was ended today, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we talked about that before.
Just check
It's
out
still there, guys.
check out today's April 1st short that I sent out today. Yeah,
But
that's
if
exactly
you
what
notice,
happened.
gas did drop down today.
It did.
What?
Yeah, it's like 136 now. It was like 154 yesterday. So something has happened and gas came down.
But I would like to point out that about 2 weeks or 3 weeks before this, it was also 136 or
This is
something
true.
like that.
Yep.
And then they started talking about removing the carbon tax. And magically, gas goes up to 150
Just for it to come right back.
so that it can come back down. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, there's always something going on. Oh, it's because they have to switch over to summer gas and it costs more, Mike. Do you believe that?
Sure. No,
He's not convinced.
I'm not convinced at all.
He's not convinced,
There's
Josh.
something fishy going on there.
No,
Well, what else has been promised? What else are those liberals going to do? They announced their big housing thing, which is just a pile of hogwash.
that's for sure.
Yeah.
Can't trust that one bit.
They're going to copy the tax cut.
No,
trying
you know
to
what?
think, anything new?
I don't even think at this point, you guys. I don't even think it matters what
It's Trump. Trump matters.
exactly.
That's why these liberal numbers are so high. People are scared of Trump.
People are asking me today, what do you think Canadians are voting on, and why do you think this Donald Trump is such a big issue? I said, it's because people are short-sighted. They don't understand what the economic realities are, and they don't understand the fact that liberal or conservative, Republican or Democrat, they end up doing the same thing after the elections almost all the time.
Mm-hmm.
They know what the economic reality is for their country or whatever region they govern, and they just do that despite the promises that are made. Like whatever happens after April 28th, it's going to be the same kind of capitulation to the Americans that have an economy, what is it, 8 or 10 times larger than Canadians?
I've heard 10 times, yeah.
Yeah. And like,
Elbows up, though. We can beat them somehow.
that elbows up is, mark my words again, will disappear immediately after.
It's already disappeared.
In May, for sure, it's going to be. Well, I thought there was another video of elbows up from that Shrek and Austin Powers comedian recently.
Was there another one? I
think they did a couple of them.
Oh, well.
I
whatever.
don't even pay
Unimportant.
attention because those two millionaires do not influence the thoughts I have in life. And
Millionaires?
Yep.
Mark Carney's a millionaire?
We don't know.
We don't know.
He's
We
at
don't
least
know.
a millionaire.
He won't tell anyone.
He has, according to
He
yesterday,
followed the rules.
he had approximately 6.5
Look inside
million.
yourself, Josh. He followed the rules.
Look inside yourself. You can't say that to me.
Yeah.
That is
Don't ask me that
inappropriate.
question. I wag my finger at you.
That's Mark Carney for
I
you.
am extremely rude to people,
Yeah,
especially female reporters.
yeah, he did that. He did that and then supported the Paul Chang. So, not a great guy. But again, apparently, with all this talk about Trump,
I'm tired of talking about Trump.
Pierre Poilievre,
Poilievre, I've
he's
heard.
chummy with Donald Trump.
Is he?
That is what I have heard consistently and have been told. Is this true, Adam? Is he chummy with the good old orange man?
I think Trump said he doesn't like Pierre. They're not friends. I think he said it was stupid that they weren't. But yeah, he said they're not friends. And then he endorsed a liberal. He said he'd like a liberal to win so he could work with a liberal. So that's, to me, sounds like he's pretty chummy with Mark Carney. Speaking of that, if we're looking for some evidence of that, how long have we been listening to Donald Trump go on about 51st state nonsense? Canada's a nasty country. All this stuff he just had to say about us that was not great. He has one phone call with Mark Carney, and what happens? Oh, I think it's going to work out fine with the U.S. and Canada. And then he says, I'm not talking about Canada, but some countries have been really nasty to us. And paraphrasing, of course. And all of a sudden, he's all chummy with Mark Carney. So explain to me how Pierre Poilievre is chummy with Trump, who clearly said he doesn't like him, and Mark Carney is getting endorsed by Trump to win our election.
You know what? You're not entirely wrong, but some people would look at that and just say that he stood up for Canada, that Mark Carney.
Of course he did.
That's what he did. He didn't put up with any nonsense.
He probably got on the phone and he said, "Listen, Mr. President, elbows up." and President Trump was like, "Oh yes, I am so afraid of your Mike Myers commercial. Like, this is not realistic. This is ridiculous." Trump does not care about that. He knows that the U.S. can totally crush our economy if they want to. So for him to change his tone like this, there's something else going on there with Mark Carney and these liberals. And, well, I can't prove anything. I am very suspicious of it.
The mainstream media was not recently talking about one specific discussion that was being had after that phone call because they didn't want to point it out. But
what did they not want to point out?
Do you know who Jared Kushner is?
Yeah.
Explain it to the people who don't, Adam.
He is it's Trump's son-in-law.
That's right. And he owned a building that was in poor repair and was worth a lot of money that he could not find a buyer for.
Did somebody buy it?
Yes.
Who?
Or at least did some form of leasing for it.
Oh?
Some Brookfield assets management company.
I've heard of them.
Yes.
I hear they have nothing to do with Mark Carney.
They took their Canadian company and moved it to New York and got a building there.
Did they?
By Donald Trump's son-in-law.
Right.
So I think maybe, just maybe, Mark Carney may know a little bit about the Trump family more than we actually know or the media cares to dig into. This is a story that could be pursued further in mainstream media if they weren't getting $1.5 billion handout from the current government.
Well, not all the mainstream media is. I mean, CBC is. But that sounds to me like Carney and the president are rather chummy.
And I mean, go the other way to explain why Pierre Poilievre may not be so chummy with Donald Trump. Sure, they have similar ideology when they're both slightly on the right side. You can say that about anybody on the right, that they have similar ideas when you're on a certain political spectrum. But the guy has never even talked to Donald Trump. For you to substantiate your logic with they're chummy and they've never talked, I can't even fathom how you assume that. You know,
I can explain it to you. Do you want to know?
Please do.
Well, the Liberals spent some time, a little bit of money, and they cobbled together a video of President Trump and Pierre Poilievre saying some very generic political statements that were similar, and then they put them and played them in such an order that made it similar, sound like they're saying the same thing. And then they didn't bother adding any sort of videos of any liberals or NDP or any other politicians that have probably said similar generic political statements as well. And then they said, well, they said the same thing, so they're the same person.
You're right. Adam, you are correct. They easily persuade people who aren't paying attention in this election season. And I sure hope, guys, that you will persuade yourselves with facts and truly true things. None of this garbage, fake. What happened recently? It was in February or something with this fake AI pictures of Mark Carney. That's all that stuff. Fake stuff you don't need to worry about. Look at the facts of what these politicians are promising. I know I get upset because they don't accomplish their promises almost ever. But at least base your vote on reality, not this fantasy that one guy under the red banner can stand up to that mean orange guy. Because the reality is he can only talk to that guy and persuade him just as much as the next party can. Even Jagmeet, if he could go down to the States and talk to Donald Trump, he could probably do the same thing that either of the parties can, because we only have so much power here in Canada. We need to get more power and create a better country with better economics, better development, and better policies. And the lost Liberal decade that we have had is proof enough to tell us maybe it's time to swing that pendulum in Canada back to the right. That's what I would suggest, but I don't want to tell you to do that. I just want people to vote for substantial reasons that aren't fake media trash.
The problems of the last 10 years will be the problems of the next 4 if we elect the Liberals again. So everybody think on how you felt about that and make the choice that makes sense to you.
I'd just like to ask you, Mike.
You can't ask him. He is not taking any more questions
Nope,
today.
I'm done for the night.
Yeah, he's got to go. Leave your podium.
Say goodbye to these beautiful people that listen to us all the way through. But first, tell them, Mike, has any of this discussion influenced your thought process on these 2 political promisers that are leading in the polls?
Man, we all know that politics is not really my thing at all, but
that's common of many people who are going to cast votes.
It has swayed my thoughts a little bit. I'm not going to say which way.
You don't have to.
But, it's nice to see changes happening. They might be slowly happening, but they're still kind of happening. And I just want to continue to see what happens in the next few weeks to kind of what promises are going to be made, and then, what they're actually going to follow through on. And just to hear their ideas of what they want to see now for Canada.
I mean, and that's good.
Yeah.
Really, that's the proper way to look at it. Don't look at any of the fake trash. Look at the promises that they're going to make, obviously, and then decide off of that what you think is best for Canada, not this made-up trash that
think about what
hearing
makes
about.
sense.
We actually need to listen to what they're saying.
And
doing.
Think on it.
Yeah. On that note, guys, thanks for listening to the podcast this long. Tune into us next time and keep track of all our shorts. And remember, if you like this, share it with a friend. It will really help out the podcast. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Have a good week.